If your blood sugar's been creeping up, your memory isn't as sharp as it used to be, and you're tired no matter how much you sleep, I want you to hear something. Those might not be three separate problems. There's a good chance they're all being driven by one thing, and it's a thing most people can't even see. It's not the number on the scale. It's not the fat you can grab with your hand. It's deeper than that, packed in behind your stomach muscles, wrapped around your liver, your pancreas, your intestines. It's called visceral fat. And out of all the fat on your body, this is the one that's actually doing the damage. Now, what most people never get told is this. Visceral fat isn't just sitting there. It's not like the padding under your skin that just kind of exists. This stuff is active. It behaves almost like an organ, pumping inflammatory signals into your bloodstream all day, every day, quietly in the background. And that's the connection right there. That low-grade fire is what ties the blood sugar, the brain fog, and the fatigue together. The whole cluster of things that feel separate but aren't. So if you've been chasing each of those problems one at a time and wondering why nothing ever fully works, this might be why. Now here's the good news, and I mean this. Visceral fat is also the fat that responds the fastest. Faster than the kind you can see. When you do the right things, this is the first fat to go. And as it goes, a lot of those other problems start easing up right along with it. But most of the advice out there about it is wrong. Or at least, it's not built for someone your age dealing with what you're actually dealing with. The sit-ups, the crunches, they don't touch it. You could do 1,000 a day. This fat sits behind the muscle wall, not on top of it. And here's something that surprises people. You don't have to look heavy to be carrying a lot of it. Some of the thinnest looking folks have the most of it packed away on the inside. So let me walk you through what the science actually says. What's really going on in there? Why it builds up faster after 60, and the specific, simple things that shrink it the fastest, most of which you can start this week right from your own kitchen. Let's get into it. Remember how I said this fat behaves almost like an organ? Let me show you what that actually means for you, because this is the part that changes how you think about the whole thing. Most fat, the kind under your skin, is basically storage. It holds energy. It mostly just sits there. Visceral fat doesn't do that. It's constantly releasing things into your blood. Inflammatory messengers, hormones, fatty acids, and because of where it sits, deep in your belly, a lot of that drains straight into your liver before it goes anywhere else. So picture that for a second. This isn't fat sitting on the outside of the system. It's fat that's plugged directly into your engine. And that changes everything. When your liver gets flooded with all of that, it starts to struggle with one of its main jobs, keeping your blood sugar steady. That's the insulin resistance piece. Your body's still making insulin. Your cells just stop listening to it the way they used to. Sound familiar? If your fasting blood sugar has been drifting into a range your doctor's starting to mention, this is very often where it's coming from. Not because you're eating bowls of sugar. Because this fat is quietly making your body worse at handling the sugar you do eat. Now follow that same inflammation upward. Those messengers I mentioned, they don't stay in your belly. They travel. And one of the places they reach is your brain. That's where the brain fog comes from, the word that won't come to you. Walking into a room and forgetting why you're there, that's not just getting older. Chronic inflammation actually interferes with how your brain uses insulin. And your brain runs on insulin to think clearly. And the fatigue? Same root. Your body is fighting a low-grade fire 24 hours a day. That takes energy, a lot of it. So you sleep a full night and still wake up feeling like you ran a marathon. Because on the inside, in a way, your body's been working the whole time. So look at what we've got here. Blood sugar, brain fog, fatigue. 3 different problems. Maybe 3 different doctors. But one fire, burning in different rooms. That's the cluster. And it's exactly why treating these one at a time so often goes nowhere. Now, why does all this get worse after 60? 2 reasons, and neither one is your fault. First, your hormones shift. For women, estrogen drops after menopause, and that alone tells your body to start parking fat in the middle instead of the hips and thighs. For men, testosterone slips lower over time and does something similar. So the fat actually relocates inward toward your organs, even if the number on the scale hasn't moved an ounce. Second, you lose muscle as you age, and muscle is where you burn sugar. Less muscle means more of what you eat gets stored instead of burned, and you can probably guess where it likes to go. So if it's felt like your body started playing by a different set of rules somewhere in your 60s, you're not imagining that. It did. The habits that kept you lean at 50 just don't land the same way now. But different rules doesn't mean impossible. It means you need the right approach for the body you have today, not the one you had 30 years ago. And that's exactly where we're headed next. So the first move is the simplest one on this whole list. It's fiber, but specifically, and this is where most people get it wrong, it's soluble fiber. There's a difference, and here it matters a lot. Soluble fiber is the kind that turns into a gel when it hits water in your gut. Oats do it. So do apples, beans, peas, carrots, barley. You've almost certainly eaten all of these without thinking twice. There was a study out of Wake Forest, and this one's worth knowing about because they didn't just ask people what they ate. They actually scanned their bellies, CT scans. Over 1,000 people tracked for 5 full years, measuring the visceral fat directly. And here's what they found. For every extra 10 grams of soluble fiber people ate per day, their visceral fat piled on 3.7% slower over those 5 years. Now, read that carefully because this is the exact spot where the headlines get it wrong. It does not mean you eat some fiber and 3.7% of your belly fat melts off. It means the stuff accumulates slower. You're not melting it yet. You're stopping the bleeding. And that matters more than it sounds like it does, because you cannot shrink something that's still actively growing on you. Step 1 is always slamming the brakes on the gain. Fiber is your brakes. And 10 grams isn't some heroic amount either. The researchers spelled it right out. 2 small apples, a cup of peas, and half a cup of pinto beans. That's a day. You could hit that without buying a single thing you wouldn't already find at any grocery store. Now remember the blood sugar problem we talked about? This is where it comes full circle. That gel I mentioned, when soluble fiber thickens up in your gut, it physically slows down how fast sugar gets into your blood. So the same bowl of oats that's working on your visceral fat is also flattening out the blood sugar spikes that feed it in the first place. 1 change. 2 problems. That's the cluster finally working for you instead of against you. I'll tell you what I see all the time though. People hear fiber, go buy a big box of brand cereal or grab a fiber supplement off the shelf and figure they've handled it. But a lot of those are mostly the insoluble kind. Fine for regularity, that's not the one that moved the needle on visceral fat in that study. So if you're going to do this, do the soluble kind. Oats in the morning, beans at dinner, an apple instead of the cracker. Small, but it's the right small. So that's your foundation. Slow the gain. But you didn't come here for the slow it down move. You came for the fastest way to actually shrink it. And for that, the research keeps pointing over and over at one specific thing. Honestly, it surprised me the first time I saw it. That's next. It's movement. But the type of movement is where this gets interesting, because it's almost the opposite of what most people get told. Researchers at Duke ran a head-to-head test. They took a group of overweight, sedentary adults and split them into 3. One group did aerobic exercise, cardio, one did resistance training, weights, and one did both, 8 months. Then they measured the visceral fat directly. The cardio group won. Clearly, aerobic exercise significantly shrank the visceral fat, and the deep liver fat right along with it. The weights group? On visceral fat specifically, basically nothing. No significant reduction. And the group that did both did about the same as the cardio-only group. Adding the weights didn't add anything for this fat. Now think about how backwards that is from what you usually hear. Build muscle to burn fat. Lift to boost your metabolism. And look, for strength, for holding on to the muscle we talked about losing after 60, weights are wonderful. Keep doing them. But if your target is this fat, the dangerous kind packed around your organs, the science points straight at aerobic movement. It burns more, and this fat responds to that. Now, before you picture yourself gasping on a treadmill, ease up. Aerobic doesn't mean punishing yourself. It means moving your body steadily in a way that gets your heart going a little. And the easiest version of that for just about anyone is walking. A brisk walk counts. Go back to that Wake Forest study for 1 second. The people who added just moderate activity, about 30 minutes a few times a week, slowed their visceral fat gain by 7.4%. That's nearly double what the fiber did on its own. From walking, not marathons, just walking most days, with a little purpose in your step. And here's the part that honestly gave me chills the first time I read it. A study published just this year followed more than 500 adults, average age around 61, and tracked them for years. The ones who lost visceral fat didn't just end up with healthier bodies. They had less brain shrinkage, better memory scores, and the kicker, it held up even when their weight on the scale barely budged. Let that land for a second. You could be walking the fat off your organs, barely moving the number on the scale, and still be protecting your brain from exactly the kind of decline most people your age are quietly afraid of. That brain fog we talked about? This is the other end of that same thread. And this is the part I really want you to sit with. Because this was never really about a flatter stomach. Picture 5 years from now, 10 years from now. This is precisely how people end up needing help with things they used to do without a second thought. Carrying the groceries in from the car in one trip. Getting up off the floor after a grandchild has pulled them down to play. Taking the stairs without stopping halfway up. Doing their own yard work on a Saturday morning the way they always have. I hear it constantly. Someone who was active their whole life, did everything themselves, and then, not because of one big event, but because of 1,000 ordinary days that quietly stacked up, they can't anymore. And almost every one of them says the same thing. I didn't think it would get to this point. It doesn't have to go that way. That's the entire reason I'm sitting here telling you this. This is the most dangerous fat you carry, but it's also the most willing to leave. You have far more say in how this goes than anyone's made you feel. So with all of that in front of us, let's pull the last piece together, because there's one more lever, and it's the one that ties everything we've covered into something you can actually start tomorrow morning. It's when you eat, not just when. Here's what I mean. Your body handles food differently depending on the time of day. And more than that, it needs a real stretch of hours with nothing coming in before it'll start dipping into stored fat, including the visceral kind around your organs. There was a trial that tested this head on. They had people eat all their food inside an 8-hour window each day, so a longer overnight break, and compared that against simply cutting carbs. The eating window group lost visceral fat and brought their fasting blood sugar down. Cutting carbs alone, it trimmed the fat you can see. But it didn't move the visceral fat the same way. So the simple version is this. You give your body a longer daily break from eating, and it starts spending down the fat it's been hoarding deep in your belly. And look what came along for the ride again. The blood sugar. Same lever, 2 birds. And you don't need to do anything dramatic here. This isn't starving yourself. For most people, it's just finishing dinner a little earlier and pushing breakfast a little later. Say you eat dinner by 7 and have your first food around 11 the next morning. That's the whole thing. You were asleep for most of those hours anyway. One honest word of caution. If you're on medication, especially anything for blood sugar, loop in whoever helps you manage it before you start stretching that window. Not to ask permission. Just to be smart, because those medications and a longer fast can push on each other. So now step back and look at the whole picture, because this is where it clicks. You've got 3 levers. Soluble fiber to slam the brakes on the gain. Aerobic movement, walking, to actually burn the fat off your organs. And a tighter eating window to give your body the time it needs to do the work. 3 simple things. And notice, they're not 3 separate fixes for 3 separate problems. They all point at the same target, that one fire we keep coming back to. That's the real secret with visceral fat. You stop chasing the blood sugar, then the brain fog, then the fatigue, then the stiffness, running yourself ragged, treating each one like its own emergency. You go after the things sitting underneath all of them. And as that fat starts to leave, The blood sugar steadies, the head clears, the energy creeps back. Not because you treated 4 things, because you finally treated the one thing feeding all 4. And if you've been carrying this for years, feeling like your body quietly turned on you and nobody ever gave you a straight answer about why, I want you to really hear this. It is not too late. This fat doesn't care how long it's been there. It answers to the same things at 70 that it does at 50. Your body is more forgiving than people give it credit for. So I'm not going to tell you to overhaul your whole life tonight. Please don't. Pick one of the 3. Just one. The easiest one. Maybe it's the bowl of oats in the morning. Maybe it's a 15-minute walk after dinner. Do that one thing and be honest with yourself about actually doing it for 2 weeks. And then pay attention, not just to your waistline, to your sleep, your energy, how clear your head feels in the middle of the afternoon. Those are the ripples. That's how you'll know the fire's coming down. Think about where you want to be a year from now, what you want to still be able to do, who you want to be able to keep up with. Start with one thing today, and let that be your answer. If this helped you see your own body a little more clearly, go ahead and subscribe. This is the kind of thing I walk through here. Take good care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one.